Woman is kicked out by husband with her daughters, but meets a seer and the impossible happens. Jennifer Mitchell felt her legs trembling with exhaustion as she carried her youngest daughter in her arms and felt the sweaty little hand of 4-year-old Emma clutching her faded green blouse. She had been walking for over 2 hours on the dirt road that cut through the countryside of Kentucky with no clear destination, just fleeing the humiliation she had just experienced. That morning, Derek had shouted the cruelest words she had ever heard in her life. After 7 years together, he pushed her out of the house in front of all the neighbors, yelling that he was tired of that life of poverty and that she should take away the daughters he never wanted to have. Tears still burned in her eyes when she remembered the neighbors standing at their windows, watching everything in silence, without anyone having the courage to say a single word. Little Lily, just 8 months old, whimpered softly in her mother's arms, sensing the tension in the air. Emma dragged her bare little feet in the red dirt, asking from time to time when they were going back home. Jennifer didn't have the heart to explain to the girl that they might never return. The midday sun beat down on their uncovered heads. Jennifer stopped for a moment to wipe the sweat from her face with her sleeve when she noticed a strange figure approaching in the distance. It was an elderly woman, dressed all in black, riding a donkey that walked slowly along the same road. Her grey hair escaped from the dark scarf covering her head, and she came toward them with the upright posture of someone who knows every stone on that path. Jennifer had heard stories about that woman her entire life. The locals called her Mrs. Eleanor, and they said she had a special gift for seeing things that others couldn't see. Some said she was just an eccentric lady who had lived alone for decades. Others swore she had mystical powers. Jennifer had never believed those stories, but now, lost and hopeless, she waited for the old woman to approach. Mrs. Eleanor stopped the donkey right in front of them and got down with difficulty, leaning on a dark wooden cane. Her small, penetrating eyes studied Jennifer for long seconds before she opened her mouth. "You came from the house with the blue windows on Blossom Street, didn't you?" asked the elderly woman in a hoarse but firm voice. Jennifer felt a chill run down her spine. How did that woman know where she had come from? "How do you know that?" "Because I passed by there this morning and saw the commotion. I saw your husband throwing your things in the yard and shouting that he didn't want anything more to do with you," replied Mrs. Eleanor, shaking her head sadly. "And I also saw that you left without looking back, carrying these 2 children as if it were the end of the world." Jennifer lowered her eyes, feeling shame burn her cheeks. So it wasn't clairvoyance or mystery, just a witness to her humiliation. "I have nowhere to go," she murmured, holding Lily tightly against her chest. "Everyone has somewhere to go, my dear. The question is, knowing how to see the doors that open when others close," said the elderly woman, pointing with her cane to a trail that branched off from the main road. "My house is over there, about 2 miles away. You and the girls can stay there today, at least until you figure out what to do." Jennifer hesitated. She didn't know that woman, only the stories that circulated in the area. But Emma was thirsty, Lily needed a clean place to rest, and she herself couldn't walk much farther. "Why do you want to help me?" "Because I've been in your place," replied Mrs. Eleanor, moving back to the donkey with slow movements. "And because no one deserves to be lost on a road with 2 small children, no matter what they have or haven't done." Mrs. Eleanor's house was small and simple, made of white-painted bricks with faded blue windows and doors. It sat in the middle of a large lot, surrounded by a well-kept garden, where medicinal herbs, vegetables, and some fruit trees grew. The scent of basil and rosemary filled the air, mixed with the aroma of homemade bread coming from the kitchen. "Sit there on the porch while I fetch some fresh water for you," said the elderly woman, pointing to a wooden bench under a vine heavy with purple flowers. Jennifer sat down carefully, still holding Lily, while Emma leaned against her leg and looked curiously at the roosters and hens pecking freely around the yard. For the first time since she had left home, she was able to take a deep breath and relax her tense shoulders. Mrs. Eleanor returned carrying a pitcher of cold water and some slices of bread with white cheese. Emma ate eagerly, while Jennifer gave small sips of water to Lily using a tiny spoon. "How old are you, dear?" 28, Mum." "And how long have you been with this man?" 7 years. We met when I was 21, replied Jennifer, feeling her throat tighten. In the beginning he was different. He worked in construction, treated people well. But after he lost his job, he started drinking and—" She left the sentence hanging, unable to speak about the years of shouting, humiliation, and sleepless nights waiting for him to come home. "And has it always been just you taking care of the children?" "Always." He said he had no patience for childish nonsense. "When Lily was born, I thought things would get better, that he would grow attached to his daughter. But he didn't even want to hold her when we came home from the hospital." Mrs. Eleanor shook her head, stirring her hands in a cup of lemon balm tea. "A man who can't love his own daughters can't love anyone, not even himself. You did the right thing by leaving." "But I didn't leave," protested Jennifer, her voice choked. "He threw me out, in front of everyone. He said he was tired of supporting useless mouths and that I should take the children he never asked to have." "And why do you think he did that?" The question caught Jennifer off guard. She had spent the last hours thinking only about the humiliation and the desperation of having nowhere to go, but she hadn't stopped to consider Derek's reasons. "I don't know, I think he'd been drinking since morning and got upset because I asked for money to buy diapers for Lily." "And where would that money come from?" "He had received some change from a side job he did yesterday, loading a truck for a merchant in town. But when I woke up today, I saw he had spent almost all of it at the bar." Mrs. Eleanor sighed deeply, as if she knew that story by heart. "Dear, a man who spends his daughter's milk money on liquor lost his way a long time ago. And the more we insist on staying by the side of someone who's lost, the more we lose ourselves, too." Jennifer felt the words like a slap in the face, but a slap that woke her up instead of hurting. Maybe the elderly woman was right. Maybe she had spent years losing herself along with Derek, trying to save a man who didn't want to be saved. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing, Emma fell asleep on the porch bench, exhausted from the walk and the heat. Lily had also dozed off in her mother's lap, finally relaxed after nursing. Mrs. Eleanor covered both girls with a thin blanket and signaled for Jennifer to follow her to the kitchen. "You can stay here for a few days until you get organized," said the elderly woman, stirring a pot of beans on the wood stove. "I have 2 empty rooms and having people around doesn't bother me. It's been a long time since this house heard the laughter of children. I can't pay you, Mum. Derek took everything, even the few dollars I had saved." "Who said anything about payment?" Mrs. Eleanor laughed for the first time, revealing a few missing teeth. "But if you want to help with the garden and the household chores, I'll accept. I'm getting too old to handle everything on my own." Jennifer felt a pang of relief mixed with suspicion. She wasn't used to free kindness. In recent years, everyone who had offered help wanted something in return. "Why are you doing this for us?" "Because 40 years ago, I was also thrown out of my home by a drunken, violent husband. And because back then no one helped me. I had to raise my son alone, working from sunup to sundown to get food for the 2 of us." The revelation left Jennifer silent. Looking at Mrs. Eleanor, she tried to imagine what that strong woman was like at 28, going through the same humiliation and despair she was experiencing now. "And where is your son now?" "He left for New York 5 years ago, looking for better work. He promised he would send money and that I could go live with him whenever I wanted." The elderly woman's voice grew quieter. "But life in the big city is busy, isn't it? He found a girlfriend, then a wife. Now he has 2 young children. There's no time left to think about the old mother left behind." Jennifer noticed the sadness hidden behind Mrs. Eleanor's firm words. Perhaps helping a mother with 2 young children was a way for the elderly woman to ease the longing for her son who had drifted away. "I'm sorry, Mum." "No need to feel sorry, dear. Everyone follows their own path, and my path brought me to you today. There must be a reason for that, don't you think?" That night, Jennifer laid her 2 daughters down in a clean, fresh-smelling bed in the small back room that Mrs. Eleanor had prepared for them. It was the first time in months they would sleep in peace, without hearing shouts or the sound of bottles breaking in the living room. Through the open window came the scent of the garden flowers and the chirping of crickets in the yard. Jennifer lay awake for a long time, staring at the dark ceiling and thinking about the elderly woman's words. Could it be that this humiliating expulsion was actually a liberation? Was it possible to start over at 28, with 2 young daughters and not a penny in her pocket? When she finally fell asleep, she dreamed of Derek, but for the first time in years, it wasn't a nightmare. In the dream, he was far away, drinking in some dirty bar, while she and the girls ran free through a flower-filled field. The first days at Mrs. Eleanor's house passed like a dream. Jennifer woke up early, helped the elderly woman tend the garden, learned about the different medicinal herbs and their uses. Emma played among the flower beds, building dirt castles and talking to the chickens as if she understood what they were saying. Lily crawled around the clean yard, discovering leaves and flowers with the typical curiosity of babies. "This one is St. John's wort. It's good for calming the nerves," explained Mrs. Eleanor, showing a plant with yellowish flowers. "And this is holy thorn, good for the stomach. My grandmother taught me that nature has remedies for all the ailments of the body and soul." Jennifer absorbed each piece of information with genuine interest. She had grown up in the countryside, but had never paid attention to medicinal plants. Her mother had left when she was still a teenager, and she was raised by an aunt who didn't believe in old wives' remedies. "Did you learn all this on your own?" "My grandmother was known as a healer in the area. When I was a girl, I spent hours here in this same yard, learning about each plant, each tea, each ointment. After she passed, I kept studying, testing, perfecting the recipes." "And is that how you make a living?" "Selling natural remedies for those in need, and also vegetables and greens at the city market. It's not much, but it's enough to live with dignity." Jennifer began to understand why Mrs. Eleanor was respected in the area. It wasn't just because of the supposed mystical abilities people attributed to her, but for the real and practical knowledge she had accumulated over her lifetime. In the second week, the first customers started to appear. An elderly lady with joint pain looking for comfrey ointment, a young man with insomnia issues wanting lemon balm tea, a young mother seeking something natural for her baby's colic. Jennifer watched fascinated as Mrs. Eleanor attended to each person with patience and knowledge. She didn't just recommend the remedy, but talked about symptoms, gave advice on diet and healthy habits, listened to everyone's concerns. "Why do people trust you so much?" Jennifer asked one afternoon, after an older gentleman had left carrying several small bottles of medicine. "Because I don't lie to them," the elderly woman replied simply. "When I know I can help, I help. When I know the problem is too serious for home remedies, I send them to the doctor. And when I don't know something, I say I don't know." It was a lesson in honesty that Jennifer kept in her heart. For years, she had lived lying to herself about the marriage, pretending things would get better, hiding the shame behind forced smiles at community gatherings. One morning, while watering the mint beds, Jennifer heard the sound of a car approaching on the dirt road. It was rare to see vehicles in that area, where most people walked or at most rode bicycles. A blue Beetle stopped at the house gate, and out stepped a well-dressed middle-aged man carrying a leather briefcase. "Good morning, I'm looking for Mrs. Eleanor," he said, taking off his hat and wiping the sweat from his forehead. "She's in the back, tending to the chickens. I'll get her," Jennifer replied, wiping her hands on her apron. The man introduced himself as Richard Campbell, a merchant from the city of Lexington. He had heard about Mrs. Eleanor's remedies through a customer who swore she had been cured of chronic gastritis with the elderly woman's teas. "I'm interested in forming a business partnership," he explained, opening his briefcase and showing some papers. "My store sells natural products, and I'd like to resell your remedies to a larger audience, Mrs." Eleanor listened to the proposal attentively, but her expression was distrustful. Jennifer remained silent, watching the conversation. "And how much do you intend to pay for my products?" the elderly woman asked. "I can pay 50% of what you charge here," Richard replied with a smile that tried to be charming. 50%? Mrs. Eleanor laughed ironically. "Mr. Richard, do you think my work is worth half of what I charge?" "It's not that, ma'am. But I need to have a profit margin. I need to pay store rent, employees, taxes, and I need to buy seeds, fertilizer, pay for water, electricity, not to mention the time it takes to plant, care for, harvest, and prepare each remedy." "My profit margin is already small, sir. I can't work for charity." Jennifer admired the elderly woman's firmness in defending her work. It was something she herself had never learned to do during her marriage to Derek. Richard tried to negotiate, but Mrs. Eleanor was unyielding. In the end, he left promising to think more about the proposal, but everyone knew he wouldn't return. After the beetle disappeared in the road dust, the elderly woman sighed and shook her head. "These city merchants think we country folks are foolish. They want to pay pennies for our work and then sell it for 3 times as much to customers. But wouldn't it be good to have a higher income, Mrs. Eleanor?" "It would, dear. But not at any cost. When you accept being undervalued once, it becomes a habit, and I don't intend to die working for free to make some city slicker rich." Another lesson Jennifer noted mentally. For years, she had accepted being undervalued by Derek, thinking it was better to have little than nothing at all. Now she was learning that sometimes it's better to say no and keep your dignity than to accept anything just to avoid being alone. The weeks passed by, and Jennifer began to feel truly useful for the first time in years. She helped Mrs. Eleanor with all the chores, from tending the garden to preparing homemade remedies. Her hands, accustomed only to heavy housework, learned to handle medicinal plants with care. Emma was more talkative and smiling every day. She had befriended all the chickens on the property and created names for each one. Lily was growing strong and healthy, taking her first little steps around the spacious backyard. One afternoon, as Jennifer was hanging clothes on the line, she heard a car stopping at the gate again. This time it was a white, slightly rusty van from which a young man emerged carrying crates of vegetables. "Good afternoon, I'm Ryan. I deliver vegetables in town," he introduced himself with a friendly smile. "Did Mrs. Eleanor order some special seedlings?" Jennifer went to call the elderly woman, who appeared excited to receive the plants she had requested. They were herb seedlings she couldn't grow there, brought from a town in the region known for its diversity of medicinal plants. Ryan seemed to be about Jennifer's age, perhaps a few years older. He was thin and tall, with a sun-tanned face and calloused hands from working the land. While unloading the crates, he chatted animatedly with Mrs. Eleanor about plants, rain, and vegetable prices at the market. "You're not new around here," he said, addressing Jennifer politely. "I've been coming through this area every week for 2 years and I've never seen you before." "I've been helping Mrs. Eleanor for a few weeks," replied Jennifer, feeling her cheeks warm without knowing why. "It's good she has company. I've always worried about her living alone in this isolated place." After Ryan left, Mrs. Eleanor made a casual comment that left Jennifer thoughtful. "That boy is hard-working and honest. He lost his wife 3 years ago to childbirth complications and has devoted himself solely to work ever since. I've never seen him smile with any young woman around here since." Jennifer pretended not to hear, but the words kept echoing in her mind. Why had Mrs. Eleanor told her that? Was it just conversation, or was there some intention behind the comment? The following week, Ryan returned to deliver more seedlings and stayed for coffee. Emma was enchanted by him when she saw him playing hide-and-seek in the yard, and even Lily smiled when he made funny faces. "Your daughters are beautiful," he said to Jennifer as they drank coffee on the porch. "The older one has your eyes." "Thank you," murmured Jennifer, unsure how to react to a genuine compliment. "Does their father live around here?" The direct question caught her off guard. Mrs. Eleanor intervened before she had to answer. "Jennifer is starting over, Ryan. Sometimes it takes courage to leave situations that aren't working out." Ryan nodded understandingly, asking no further questions. Jennifer was grateful for the elderly woman's discretion and the young man's tact in not pressing the matter. For the rest of the afternoon, she observed how Ryan interacted naturally with her daughters, without the impatience or irritation Derek had always shown. When he left, he waved to the girls and promised to bring toys on his next visit. "He seems like a good person," Jennifer commented that evening while helping Mrs. Eleanor prepare dinner. "That's right. And he needs a family to care for, just like you need a man who knows how to appreciate a hard-working woman and 2 beautiful children." The elderly woman's direct comment made Jennifer swallow dryly. She hadn't thought about getting involved with any man after the traumatic experience with Derek. The idea of trusting someone again still scared her. "I'm not looking for a relationship, Mrs. Eleanor. I just want to take care of my daughters in peace." I know, dear, but when we least expect it, life puts special people in our path, and it would be foolish to let a good opportunity slip away because of past mistakes. Jennifer fell silent, thoughtful. Was she being too cowardly? Would every man be like Derek, or were there people like Ryan who showed genuine kindness? Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. The following month, the routine at Mrs. Eleanor's house had settled into a harmonious rhythm. Jennifer woke before sunrise to help with the first tasks of the day, took care of the girls, worked in the garden and learned about medicinal plants. In the afternoon, when clients arrived, she watched attentively how the elderly woman attended to them, absorbing knowledge about each remedy and its application. Ryan had become a regular presence, showing up every week with deliveries and always staying a little longer to chat. Jennifer began to notice that he made up excuses to prolong his visits. He brought seedlings that hadn't been ordered, offered help with repairs around the house, asked about recipes for remedies that supposedly his clients wanted to know. "You've noticed that Ryan is interested in you, haven't you?" asked Mrs. Eleanor one morning while they prepared calendula ointment for a client with skin problems. Mrs. Eleanor: No need to pretend with me, dear. I have eyes in my head and I'm not blind. That boy doesn't need to come here every week making up conversations, and you don't just happen to turn that red every time he arrives." Jennifer sighed, stirring the ointment more vigorously than necessary. "I'm afraid, Mrs. Eleanor, Derek hurt me deeply. How can I trust another man? You can't judge all men by the mistakes of one. Ryan isn't Derek, just as you're not the same woman you were before. Sometimes life gives us second chances, and it would be a shame to waste them out of fear." That conversation kept echoing in Jennifer's head over the following days. When Ryan showed up the next week, she watched him with new eyes. She noticed how careful he was when playing with her daughters, how he respected Mrs. Eleanor's opinions, how he treated everyone with politeness and kindness. After lunch, he helped fix a fence that had broken in the chicken coop. Jennifer watched him work, admiring the skill of his hands and the patience with which he explained each step to Emma, who wanted to help by holding the tools. "Can I ask a personal question?" she said when they were alone for a moment. "Of course. Mrs. Eleanor told me you lost your wife. How do you manage to go on?" Ryan stopped hammering and was silent for a few seconds, looking at the horizon. "The first years were very hard. I blamed myself, thought I had done something wrong, that I could have prevented it somehow. I stopped talking to people, stopped leaving the house except for work. I thought I would never be able to trust life again. And what changed? One day I realized I was wasting the time I had left because of the time I lost. My wife wasn't coming back, but I was still alive. And she wouldn't have liked to know that I stopped living because of the pain." The words struck a deep chord in Jennifer's heart. She too had stopped living during the last years with Derek, resigning herself to a life without joy or hope. "But it's not easy to trust again, is it?" "It really isn't," Ryan agreed, returning to work on the fence. "But sometimes we meet people who make it worth trying again." The comment was made casually, but Jennifer felt there was a deeper meaning behind the words. That afternoon, as Ryan was getting ready to leave, Emma ran to him and hugged his legs. "Will you come back tomorrow, Uncle Ryan?" "Not until next week, Princess, but I promise I'll bring that doll you asked for." "Why not until next week? Why don't you come live here with us?" The girl's innocent question made all the adults uncomfortable. Jennifer felt her face burn with shame, but Ryan knelt to Emma's level and answered seriously. "Because I haven't been invited yet, Princess. But who knows one day, right?" He winked at Jennifer over the girl's head, and she felt her heart race in a way that hadn't happened in years. After Ryan left, Mrs. Eleanor remarked with a mischievous smile, "Even Emma has noticed what you're still pretending not to see." "What do you mean by that?" "That sometimes children are wiser than adults. They see with their hearts, not with fear." That night, Jennifer lay awake, thinking about the conversation. Emma really seemed to like Ryan, and Lily always smiled when he appeared. Were her daughters missing a positive father figure? Was she being selfish by closing herself off to possibilities because of her own fears? The next morning, she woke up determined to have an honest conversation with herself. While tending the garden, she mentally listed the differences between Ryan and Derek. Derek always came home speaking harshly, complaining about everything and everyone. Ryan spoke softly, politely, genuinely interested in people. Derek never showed affection for his daughters, treating them as a burden. Ryan played with the girls naturally without forcing anything. Derek drank until he passed out and spent all the money he could get. Ryan seemed responsible and hard-working. Perhaps Mrs. Eleanor was right. Perhaps she was judging all men by one man's mistakes. A week later, when Ryan arrived for his regular visit, Jennifer greeted him with a warmer smile than usual. During lunch, she made an effort to participate more in the conversation, asking questions about his work, his family, his plans for the future. "Have you always wanted to work in agriculture?" she asked as they had coffee on the porch. "Actually, no. I completed high school and had plans to go to the capital to try for a job in commerce. But when my father fell ill, I had to stay to take care of the family property, and after I met my first wife, I decided to stay here for good." "And you don't regret it?" "No. I've learned that happiness isn't about where you are, but about the people you're with." He looked directly into her eyes as he said this. "And you? Did you always want to have children so young?" "Emma wasn't planned. I was 24 and thought I was ready to be a mother. Lily—" She hesitated, remembering the difficult circumstances of the second pregnancy. "Lily was an even bigger surprise, but I don't regret having them. They're the most important thing in my life." "That's obvious from afar. They're very well cared for and well-mannered. You're an exemplary mother." The sincere compliment moved Jennifer. For years she had only heard criticism about her way of raising her daughters. Derek always said she was too permissive, too weak, too incompetent. "Thank you. I've always been afraid of not being good enough for them." Every caring mother has that fear. It just proves you truly love them. The conversation was interrupted by Lily, who came crawling onto the porch, whimpering softly. Jennifer picked her up and noticed she had a fever. "I think she's getting sick," she said worriedly. Ryan approached and gently touched the baby's forehead. "She is warm. Is Mrs. Eleanor around?" "She went to visit a sick neighbor. She won't be back until late afternoon." "Do you want me to take you to town? There's a health clinic there that handles emergencies." The kind and immediate offer of help moved Jennifer. Throughout her life, she had always had to solve problems alone, without anyone to rely on. "You would do that?" "Of course. Come on, gather the baby's things and I'll take you right now." The town's health clinic was small and simple but well-maintained. The on-duty doctor, an elderly man with graying hair, examined Lily patiently and declared she just had a common virus. Nothing to worry about. He prescribed plenty of fluids, rest, and children's fever reducer. "She'll be better in 2 or 3 days. It's normal for babies this age to get sick like this occasionally. Their immune systems are still strengthening," the doctor explained with a reassuring smile. Jennifer sighed with relief. As a first-time mother with Emma and now with Lily, she always panicked whenever either of them got sick, remembering tragic stories she'd heard from other mothers. Ryan insisted on paying for the consultation and buying the medicine at the clinic's pharmacy. Jennifer tried to protest, but he was firm. "You would help me if I needed it. That's how people help each other, Jennifer." The ride home was peaceful. Lily fell asleep in her mother's arms, her fever already lower because of the medicine. Emma dozed in the back seat of the van. Jennifer watched the familiar scenery through the window, but her mind was focused on the man driving beside her. "Thank you, Ryan, for everything you did today." "No need to thank me. It was a pleasure to help." "Why are you so kind to us? You barely know us." Ryan slowed the car and glanced at her briefly before turning his attention back to the road. "Because you deserve to be treated with kindness, and because it's been a long time since I felt useful to someone." The honest answer touched Jennifer's heart. She began to understand that maybe Ryan needed them as much as they needed him, each for different reasons. When they got home, Mrs. Eleanor had already returned and was worried to hear that Lily had been sick, but she was reassured when she learned that Ryan had taken them to the doctor and that it was just a virus. "That boy has a heart of gold," she commented after Ryan left, making sure Lily was okay. A man who cares so much for children not his own was born to be a family man. Jennifer didn't respond, but the words echoed in her mind all night as she cared for her sick daughter. Over the next few days, while Lily recovered from the virus, Jennifer had time to reflect on the confusing feelings emerging toward Ryan. She enjoyed his company, felt safe and respected when he was around. Her daughters clearly adored him, but there was still a voice in her head, an echo from the years with Derek, saying she couldn't trust, that all men were the same, that she was being naive. The following week, Ryan showed up earlier than usual, carrying a mysterious box. "I brought a surprise for the girls," he said with a mischievous smile. Inside the box were two small, fluffy black and white kittens. Emma shouted with joy, while Lily, now recovered, tried to touch the kittens with her small hands. "Ryan, you didn't have to. Their mother showed up on my property and had a litter of 6 kittens. I can't take care of all of them, and I thought the girls would like to have some pets." "Can I keep them, Mummy? Please?" begged Emma, already holding one of the kittens against her chest. Jennifer looked at Mrs. Eleanor, who smiled and nodded positively. "Of course you can, my dear, but you'll have to take good care of them. Give them food, water, keep them clean." "I will, I promise." The rest of the afternoon was nothing but joy. Emma and Lily played with the kittens in the backyard, while the adults chatted on the porch. Jennifer noticed how patient Ryan was explaining to Emma how to care for the animals, how affectionate he was helping Lily pet the kittens without hurting them. "You're good with kids," she commented when they were alone for a moment. "I always wanted to have children. My first wife and I tried for years, but she had trouble getting pregnant. When she finally did, it was—" He didn't finish the sentence, but Jennifer understood. "I'm sorry. It's been 3 years. The pain never completely goes away, but I've learned to live with it, and being around you all has helped me remember that life can still be good." The confession moved Jennifer. She began to realize that maybe Ryan was becoming attached to them in the same way she was becoming attached to him. It was scary, but also comforting to know that the feelings were mutual. That night, after the girls fell asleep with the kittens in their beds, Mrs. Eleanor called Jennifer for a serious talk. "Dear, you need to make a decision about Ryan." "What kind of decision?" "Whether you're interested in him or not, because that boy is in love with you, anyone with eyes can see it, and it's not fair to string him along if you don't intend to reciprocate." Jennifer felt her stomach flip. She had noticed Ryan's interest, but hearing the word "in love" scared her. "I don't know if I'm ready for a relationship, Mrs. Eleanor. No one is ever completely ready to love again after being hurt. The question is whether you want to try, or if you're going to let fear decide your life." "What if it goes wrong? What if he changes after a while, like Derek did? What if it goes right? What if he's the man you and your daughters deserve to have by your side?" countered the elderly woman. "Dear, life is full of risks, but the greatest risk of all is not living for fear of getting hurt." Mrs. Eleanor was right, and Jennifer knew it. In the past few months, living in the elderly woman's house, she had rediscovered a version of herself that she thought was lost forever. A strong, capable woman, deserving of respect and affection. Maybe it was time to give happiness a chance. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out now continuing. The following week, when Ryan arrived for his usual visit, Jennifer was more nervous than ever. She had decided it was time to have an honest conversation with him about the feelings developing between them. During lunch, she could barely eat, paying attention to every word, every look, every gesture of his. Ryan seemed more anxious too, as if sensing that something was different in the air. After coffee, when the girls went to play with the kittens in the backyard and Mrs. Eleanor retired for her afternoon nap, Jennifer took a deep breath and decided to speak. "Ryan, I need to talk to you about us." He looked at her with full attention, setting his coffee cup aside. "I'm listening. I know you have an interest in me. And I need to be honest. I'm interested in you too." Ryan's face lit up with a shy smile, but he said nothing, waiting for her to continue. "But I'm really scared, Ryan. My previous marriage was difficult." Derek hurt me in ways I sometimes can't even explain, and I'm afraid to trust again and get disappointed. I understand, Jennifer, and I won't lie by saying it isn't scary for me too. After I lost my wife, I thought I'd never be interested in another person. But you changed that. How so? You made me remember that I'm still capable of caring for someone, of wanting to protect and make them happy. Your daughters reminded me how good it is to have family around, and being here in this house with you all is the first time in years I've felt truly at home. Ryan's sincere words touched Jennifer's heart deeply. She could see in his eyes that it wasn't just pretty talk, but genuine feelings. What do you expect from me, Ryan? I hope for the chance to prove that not all men are the same. I hope to be able to care for you and the girls as you deserve, and I hope that one day you'll trust me enough for us to build a family together. The declaration was direct and moving. Jennifer felt tears in her eyes, but they were tears of hope, not sadness. I want to try, Ryan, but I need you to be patient with me. Sometimes I'll be scared. Sometimes I'll doubt. It's nothing personal against you. I have all the patience in the world, and I'll prove every day that you can trust me. He reached out his hand, and she took it timidly. It was the first time a man had touched her affectionately since she couldn't remember when. So, we're in this together, he asked, gently squeezing her hand. We are, she replied, feeling a mixture of fear and joy she had forgotten existed. The kiss that followed was sweet and respectful, nothing like Derek's crude advances. Jennifer felt as if she were discovering for the first time what it was like to be desired in a caring way, not a possessive one. When they separated, Emma came running with one of the kittens in her arms. "Mommy, Snowball is hungry." She stopped suddenly upon seeing the two together, holding hands. "Are you dating?" The girl's direct question made them both laugh. "We're trying, Princess," Ryan replied, bending down to her level. "What do you think about that?" "I think it's great. Now will you come here every day instead of just once a week?" "If your mother allows it," he said, looking at Jennifer with a questioning smile. "I think we can talk about that," she replied, feeling a happiness she hadn't experienced in years. That night, after Ryan left with the promise to return the next day, Mrs. Eleanor hugged Jennifer with a proud smile. "You made the right choice, dear. That boy will take good care of you all." "How can you be so sure?" "Because I see it in his actions, not just his words. A man who brings gifts for children who aren't his, who takes them to the doctor without asking for anything in return, who has the patience to explain how to care for a pet. That man has the heart of a true father and husband." Jennifer slept that night more peacefully than she had in months. For the first time since the traumatic separation from Derek, she could imagine a different future for herself and her daughters. The following months were like a rediscovery of life. Ryan began visiting the house almost daily, helping with the heavier chores, bringing fresh vegetables from his property, participating in the family routine as if he had always been there. Jennifer gradually lowered her emotional defenses. Ryan showed patience with her moments of insecurity, understanding when she sometimes withdrew out of fear, and affectionate with her daughters as if they were his own children. Emma started calling him almost Daddy, an expression that made Ryan smile from ear to ear. Lily, who had just started walking, would run to him every time she saw him arrive, asking to be picked up with her little arms outstretched. Mrs. Eleanor watched everything with the satisfaction of someone seeing their plans come to fruition. "This house hasn't seen so much joy in years," she often commented. One day, 3 months after they had committed to the relationship, Ryan arrived with a proposal that would completely change everyone's life. "Jennifer, I have an idea I want to discuss with you and Mrs. Eleanor," he said during lunch. "What kind of idea?" "How about we expand the medicinal plants business? My property has extra land, and I know many merchants in the area. We could plant a greater variety of herbs, produce more remedies, and sell to other cities." Mrs. Eleanor looked interested but cautious. "That would require investment, Ryan, and we don't have the capital for big changes. I have some savings set aside, and we can start small, growing gradually. The important thing is that we work together, as a team." The proposal was tempting, but Jennifer felt a pang of insecurity. What if it doesn't work out? What if we lose the money you invested? Every business has risks, Jennifer, but I'd rather try and fail than forever wonder what would have happened if we had tried. Mrs. Eleanor, who had been silent thinking, finally spoke up. I think we should try. My business has grown as much as it can on its own. With the help of you both, we can really do something big. They spent weeks planning the expansion. Ryan would bring knowledge about large-scale cultivation and business contacts. Jennifer would contribute everything she had learned about medicinal plants and preparing remedies. Mrs. Eleanor would be the general supervisor, sharing all her experience. The first step was preparing a plot on Ryan's property for cultivation. Jennifer divided her time between caring for her daughters and working in the new garden. It was tiring, but rewarding to see the project growing. One morning, while planting St. John's wort seedlings, Ryan made a comment that caught Jennifer off guard. You know, Jennifer, I was thinking, we're already working together, taking care of the girls together, sleeping in separate houses but living like a family. Where are you going with this? She asked, feeling her heart race. How about we make this official? How about we get married? The proposal left her speechless. It was something she had vaguely imagined, but hearing the word marriage still frightened her. Ryan, Take it easy. You don't have to answer now. I just wanted you to know that this is what I want. A complete life with all of you. The girls having my last name, a home for all of us, maybe even little siblings for them in the future. The picture he painted was tempting but also terrifying. Marriage for Jennifer was still associated with the traumatic memories of life with Derek. I need some time to think. Of course. There's no rush. I just wanted you to know that my feelings are serious. That night, Jennifer talked at length with Mrs. Eleanor about Ryan's proposal. Do you love this boy? The elderly woman asked directly. I think so, but I'm afraid it might just be gratitude or loneliness or... My dear, when a woman truly loves, she knows. She doesn't look for explanations or excuses. How can I know if it's love? Answer one question. Can you imagine your life without him? Jennifer fell silent, thinking. In the past few months, Ryan had become an essential part of her and her daughter's routine. The thought of returning to life without him created an empty feeling in her chest. No, I can't imagine it. Then you have your answer. But what if marriage changes everything? What if he becomes different afterward? What if he doesn't? What if it becomes even better than it is now? Retorted Mrs. Eleanor. My dear, you can't go on comparing every man to Derek. Ryan has proven at least 1,000 times that he's different. The conversation helped Jennifer organize her thoughts. During the following days, she observed Ryan with even more attention, looking for signs that he might change or turn out different from how he appeared. But all she saw were confirmations of what she already knew. He was kind, hard-working, affectionate with her daughters, respectful toward her, honest in his words and actions. And most importantly, she felt happy beside him in a way she had never experienced before. 1 week after the proposal, during a particularly beautiful sunset in Mrs. Eleanor's backyard, Jennifer gathered the courage to give her answer. Ryan, about what you asked me. He stopped playing tag with Emma and approached, clearly anxious. Have you thought about my proposal? I've thought a lot, and my answer is yes. The smile that spread across his face was the most beautiful thing Jennifer had ever seen. He hugged her and lifted her off the ground, spinning with her in the yard while Emma clapped and shouted with joy, even without fully understanding what was happening. Really? You'll marry me? I will, with one condition. Anything. That we take it slow. Engagement first, a simple wedding, no rush. I'm still learning to trust completely. Everything at your pace, my love. The important thing is that you said yes. The word love, spoken by him for the first time, made Jennifer's heart race. She finally understood the difference between being with someone out of fear of loneliness and being with someone out of true love. That evening, they announced their engagement to Mrs. Eleanor, who pretended to be surprised as if she hadn't been the one orchestrating that romance from day one. What joy! This house will have a wedding, she exclaimed, hugging them both with tears in her eyes. The wedding preparations were simple and full of love. They decided to have a small ceremony in Mrs. Eleanor's backyard, with only close friends and a few neighbors. Jennifer sewed her own dress, a simple yet elegant design in white fabric with embroidered flowers. Ryan bought a new suit, the first he had ever owned. Emma would be the flower girl, carrying a little basket with petals from the garden. Lily, still too young for an official role, would just be the prettiest baby at the party. 1 week before the wedding, something unexpected happened. Derek showed up at Mrs. Eleanor's door, drunk and belligerent, demanding to speak with Jennifer. "I've come to get my wife and my daughters," he said in a slurred voice, leaning on the gate to keep from falling. Jennifer felt her blood run cold upon seeing her ex-husband there. All the bad memories came back at once. The shouting, the humiliations, the years of fear and shame. "You have nothing to say to me, Derek. Go away. I'm still your husband and the father of these children. You can't keep me from seeing them." "You're mistaken," intervened Mrs. Eleanor, stepping between Derek and Jennifer. "She's no longer your wife. You've been separated for over 6 months." "Separation isn't divorce, old woman. She's still my woman in the eyes of the law." Ryan, who had just arrived at that moment, quickly assessed the situation and approached firmly, but without aggression. "I think it's best if you leave. Jennifer doesn't want to talk, and you're scaring the children." Derek looked at Ryan with contempt and hatred. "Oh, so you're the doormat who's supporting my woman." "I already knew she'd find some sucker to support her and the brats." The insult made Ryan's blood boil, but he controlled himself, thinking of the children watching everything. "I'm going to ask you one last time to leave peacefully. And if I don't want to, what are you going to do, scrawny?" Derek took a threatening step toward Ryan, but he was so drunk that he stumbled and landed sitting on the ground. The ridiculousness of the situation drained all the tension from the moment. He tried to get up, but couldn't coordinate his movements. "My God, Derek," said Jennifer, more with pity than fear, "look what you've become." "Don't start lecturing me, Jennifer. I came here because I found out you're going to marry this guy, but I won't allow it. You're my wife." "I was never your wife, Derek. I was your unpaid housekeeper, your shadow, your emotional punching bag. But a wife, never." The words came out with a firmness that surprised even herself. Months ago, she wouldn't have had the courage to confront Derek like this. "And another thing," she continued, feeling stronger with each word. "I am getting married to a real man who treats me with respect, who loves my daughters, who works honestly to support his family. Everything you never were." Derek tried to get up again, this time managing to stand but swaying dangerously. "You'll regret this, Jennifer. No man wants a woman with 2 daughters. Soon he'll get tired of you all, and you'll come crawling back to me." "That will never happen," said Ryan, putting a protective arm around Jennifer's waist. "And if you show up here again bothering my family, I'll call the police." "Your family?" Derek laughed bitterly. "Those kids aren't even yours." "They don't need to be of my blood to be my daughters. Family is something you choose, not just inherit." Ryan's answer touched Jennifer deeply. That was exactly what she had always dreamed of hearing. A man who chose to love her daughters, not just tolerate their presence. Derek realized he was losing the argument and resorted to threats. "I can stop this marriage. I can file for custody of the kids. I can—" "You can do nothing," interrupted Mrs. Eleanor with authority. "Jennifer has proof of everything you did to her. There are witnesses to how you threw her out of the house. Any judge who sees the state you're in now will grant her custody without hesitation." Derek looked around, realizing he was alone against everyone. Some neighbors had approached, drawn by the noise, and all were clearly on Jennifer's side. "This isn't over," he muttered, staggering toward the road. "You don't know who you're messing with." "Yes, we do," shouted Jennifer when he was already far away. "We're messing with a weak, drunk, and cowardly man who only feels strong by threatening women and children." After Derek disappeared into the dust of the road, Jennifer realized she was trembling. But it wasn't from fear, it was from adrenaline and relief. For the first time in her life, she had faced her ex-husband and come out victorious. "You were amazing," said Ryan, hugging her tenderly. "I was proud to see you standing up for yourself like that." "Me too," agreed Mrs. Eleanor. That was the real Jennifer speaking, not the frightened woman who arrived here months ago. Emma, who had watched everything hidden behind the elderly woman, approached timidly. "Mommy, that mean man isn't coming back, is he?" "No, sweetie, and if he does, we'll be here to protect you," replied Ryan, crouching down to the girl's level. "Are you stronger than him, Uncle Ryan?" "I don't need to be stronger, Princess. I have something much more powerful than strength." "What?" "Love. And people who truly love are capable of anything to protect their family." The answer made Jennifer even more emotional. Ryan had not shown any violence or aggression, but he had been firm and protective. He was exactly the kind of man she wanted as a husband and father for her daughters. That night, after the girls had fallen asleep, the three adults discussed what had happened. "Do you think he might actually try to stop the wedding?" asked Jennifer, still worried. "Unlikely," replied Mrs. Eleanor. "A man who shows up drunk to threaten his ex-wife has no credibility in the eyes of the law, but it's best for you to get ahead of it and sort out the situation as soon as possible." "How so?" asked Ryan. "Have the civil ceremony first, before the party. That way, if he tries anything, you'll already be legally married." The suggestion made sense. They decided to move the civil wedding to the following week, keeping the party for the original date. The ceremony at the courthouse was simple and touching. Jennifer wore a light blue dress, Ryan his best dress shirt. Emma carried the rings on a little cushion embroidered by Mrs. Eleanor. Lily, in her adoptive grandmother's arms, babbled happily throughout the ceremony, as if she understood the importance of the moment. When the justice of the peace said, "You may now kiss," Jennifer felt that she was truly starting a new life. The kiss was sweet and full of promises for the future. Leaving the courthouse, they stopped for ice cream in the town square. Emma was thrilled with the idea that she now had an official father. "Can I call you Daddy now, Uncle Ryan?" "Of course you can, Princess. Now I'm your real daddy." "And can Lily too?" "When she learns to speak properly, absolutely." Jennifer watched the scene with her heart overflowing with happiness. Her daughters finally had a father figure who loved them unconditionally. The wedding party a week later was everything Jennifer had dreamed of. The backyard of Mrs. Eleanor's house was decorated with flowers from the garden, colorful balloons and wooden tables covered with white tablecloths. The neighbors brought traditional foods, someone brought a guitar, and the celebration went on late into the night. Jennifer danced her first waltz in Ryan's arms under a starry sky, surrounded by the people who had become her real family. Mrs. Eleanor cried with emotion. Emma ran among the guests, proudly showing off her flower girl dress. Lily slept peacefully in the arms of a caring neighbor. "Thank you," whispered Jennifer into Ryan's ear during the dance. "For what?" "For showing me that I deserve to be loved. For loving my daughters as if they were your own. For having patience with my fears and insecurities. For being everything I ever dreamed of in a husband. Thank you for agreeing to share your life with me, and for letting me be a father to these wonderful girls. Do you think we'll be happy?" "I'm sure we will." And he was right. The following months were pure happiness. Ryan officially moved into Mrs. Eleanor's house, which now housed a complete family. The medicinal herb business prospered beyond all expectations. They hired 2 neighbors to help with production and sold their products in 4 towns in the region. Emma adapted perfectly to Ryan's presence as a father. She had completely forgotten about Derek and treated her stepfather as if he had always been part of her life. Lily took her first steps running into his arms, and one of her first words was, "Daddy," clearly referring to Ryan. 1 year after the wedding, when Jennifer found out she was pregnant again, she didn't feel the panic she had felt during her previous pregnancies. This time, she knew she had a true partner by her side, someone who would share all the responsibilities and joys of parenthood. "A little sister or brother for the girls," said Ryan, beaming when she told him the news. "Our family is growing." Mrs. Eleanor, now 72 years old, was happier than ever seeing the house full of life and joy. She had become the grandmother the girls had never had, and they adored her unconditionally. That house that only heard silence and sadness now hears children's laughter every day, she often commented. That's what a house is meant for. During the pregnancy, Jennifer had time to reflect on the extraordinary journey she had lived. From a humiliated woman thrown out of her home with 2 children, she had transformed into a respected businesswoman in the region, a beloved wife, and a fulfilled mother. And it all began the day she met an elderly lady dressed in black riding a donkey on a dusty road. "Do you still think it's a coincidence?" she asked Mrs. Eleanor one afternoon while they were preparing fennel tea for a pregnant client. "What, dear?" "The fact that we met that day, you happening to pass by exactly when I needed it most, on the very road I was walking." Mrs. Eleanor smiled mysteriously, stirring the tea slowly. "Some things in life don't need an explanation, dear. Just accept them as blessings and move forward." "But weren't you going to tell me that there was a special reason for helping me?" "The only special reason is that you needed help and I could help. Sometimes it's that simple. Times." Jennifer accepted the answer, although she suspected there was more mystery to that story than Mrs. Eleanor was willing to reveal. The son of Jennifer and Ryan was born on a sunny spring morning. He was a healthy, calm boy whom they named Nathan, in honor of the angel who protects families. Emma and Lily were enchanted with their little brother and competed to see who could help take care of him more. Ryan proved to be an even more dedicated father than Jennifer had imagined, waking up in the middle of the night to change diapers, singing lullabies with an off-key but loving voice. "Now our family is complete," he said, holding Nathan in his lap while the older girls played in the backyard. "Are you sure? Don't you want 1 or 2 more?" Jennifer joked. "As many as you want, my love. We have land, we have a home, we have love. We can have as many children as can fit in this happy life." 2 years after Nathan's birth, when he was already walking and saying a few words, Mrs. Eleanor began to show signs of fatigue. At 74, she still maintained her clarity and independence, but her energy wasn't what it used to be. One evening, she called Jennifer for a private conversation. "Dear, I need to talk to you about the future." "What future, Mrs. Eleanor? You're doing well, thank God." "I am well, yes, but I'm not eternal, and I need to settle some things while I still have mental clarity." "What kind of things?" "This house, the land, the business. All of it needs to have a proper destination when I'm no longer here." Jennifer felt a tightness in her chest, just thinking about the possibility of losing the woman who had become her adoptive mother. "You're going to live many more years." "Maybe yes, maybe no, but I want to have everything organized. This house is yours, Jennifer. Officially. I've already been to the notary and transferred the deed to your name." "Mrs. Eleanor, I can't accept this." "You can and you will accept it. You turned this house into a real home. You and Ryan made the business thrive far beyond what I could do alone. You deserve the security of knowing you'll always have a place to call your own." Jennifer cried, hugging the elderly woman, knowing that protesting would be useless. Mrs. Eleanor had always been stubborn once she made a decision. "And there's one more thing," the lady continued. "I want you to know the truth about the day we met." "What truth?" "I wasn't just passing by on that road when I found you." Jennifer stepped back to look into the elderly woman's eyes, confused. "What do you mean?" "I had gone to the village to do some shopping, and at the market I overheard Mrs. Dorothy telling her friends about the trouble that had happened at your house. She said you had left walking with the 2 girls, that she didn't know where you had gone, that she was worried but didn't know how to help." The revelation left Jennifer stunned. "You went looking for me?" "Yes, I did. I left the village and went along the main road, thinking you had probably taken that path. When I found you, I pretended it was a coincidence, because I knew you wouldn't accept help if you knew I had gone after you on purpose. But why did you do that? You didn't know me, you didn't know if I deserved help. Because 40 years ago I was also thrown out of my home with my young son, and no one offered me even a glass of water. I promised myself that day that if I ever had the means to help someone in the same situation, I would." Jennifer cried even more upon hearing the explanation. Mrs. Eleanor wasn't a psychic or had mystical powers. She was simply a woman with a heart big enough to help a stranger in despair. "You saved my life that day." "No, my dear. I just offered an opportunity. You were the one who saved your own life with courage, hard work, and determination." That conversation changed the way Jennifer saw her whole story. She hadn't been saved by magic or fate, but by human kindness and her own inner strength. Mrs. Eleanor lived 3 more years, long enough to see Nathan take his first steps, to teach Emma how to prepare medicinal teas, to watch Lily develop a special passion for the plants in the garden. She passed away peacefully during a summer nap, sitting in her favorite chair on the porch, looking at the backyard where the 3 children she had helped raise were playing. The wake was simple but moving. Dozens of people came to pay tribute to the woman who had helped so many families in the region with her knowledge and generosity. Jennifer discovered she hadn't been the only one blessed by Mrs. Eleanor's kindness over the years. "She left a legacy of love," said the priest during the ceremony, "and that is the kind of inheritance that never ends, because it passes from generation to generation." After the mourning period, Jennifer and Ryan took full charge of the family business. They expanded production even further, hired more employees from the region, and created a training program to teach other women about medicinal plants. "Mrs. Eleanor would be proud," said Ryan one afternoon, watching the activity on the property that now employed more than 10 people. "She is proud," corrected Jennifer. "Wherever she is, she knows we honor everything she taught us." 5 years after Mrs. Eleanor's passing, when Nathan was 7, Emma 12, and Lily 10, Jennifer organized a special celebration in the backyard of the house. It was the 10th anniversary of the day she had met the woman on the road. All their friends were invited, the business employees, the neighbors who had become family, Ryan and the children, of course. In the center of the backyard, she planted a lemon balm seedling, Mrs. Eleanor's favorite plant. "Today marks 10 years since my life completely changed," she said during a brief speech. "I was a lost woman, humiliated, without hope. Today I am a businesswoman, a happy wife, a fulfilled mother, and all of this because one person chose to be kind to me when I needed it most." Nathan, who hadn't known Mrs. Eleanor but had grown up hearing stories about her, approached his mother. "Mommy, was Grandma Eleanor really a psychic?" Jennifer smiled, hugging her son. "In her own way, she really was. She could see the good in people, even when they couldn't see it themselves, and that's the most important kind of vision there is." That night, after everyone had left and the children had fallen asleep, Jennifer and Ryan were alone on the porch, watching the stars and reflecting on the journey they had taken together. "Do you regret anything?" he asked, holding her hand. "About the time with Derek, yes, but I can't completely regret it, because it brought me Emma and Lily, and without them, I might never have met Mrs. Eleanor on that road. And if you could go back in time and change something, I wouldn't change a thing. All the pain, all the fears, all the tears were necessary to bring me here, to you, to our family, to our happy life." Ryan kissed her softly, and they stayed a while longer in silence, just enjoying the peace of that moment. In the bedroom, Nathan was fast asleep in his crib. Emma, now a teenager, was reading a book about medicinal plants before bed, following in her mother's footsteps. Lily was dreaming of the kittens Ryan had brought years before, which were now grown and prolific cats. Jennifer looked at her family and felt immense gratitude for every difficult moment she had faced, because they had all been necessary to get her there. She had been kicked out of home with nothing and found everything. She had lost hope and found it again in the eyes of a stranger riding a donkey. She had learned that sometimes the impossible happens not through magic, but through kindness, courage, and the decision not to give up. And now, in charge of her own destiny, surrounded by true love and with a clear purpose in life, she finally understood what Mrs. Eleanor had tried to teach her from day one, that the greatest seer of all is the one who sees within herself the strength to transform her own story. End of story. And now tell us, what did you think of Jennifer and her family's story? Do you believe Mrs. Eleanor was an angel in disguise or just a kind person? Leave your opinion in the comments and be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other touching stories like this one.